What's up guys, I'm Darren Jackson, welcome back to the channel, and I don't know the best way to ask this question, but here it goes. Is Metamaterials actually a scam? I know, it's kind of a weird question, but honestly at the same time, it's been probably one of the most popular questions that's been asked since a lot of us have been talking about Metamaterials on YouTube and any other sites like Reddit and stuff like that. And I decided to look more into it myself because I really wanted to know why people believe that it was a scam. And I think I came up with a couple of reasons that makes it appear that way. So hopefully by the end of this video, we can answer that ultimate question and figure out what we need to do about it from here as investors. So let's get started. So we all know that the majority of the hype with Metamaterials started when Torchlight Energy Resources announced its reverse merger with the company back in October of last year. A lot of us were excited about what Metamaterials has to offer, but I think even more of us were excited about the short-term profits with this preferred stock dividend. So I have this as reason number one that people think that this could be a scam, is because it seems like there's a lot of confusion when it comes to determining what we think the preferred stock dividend value is going to be. We all know for sure that it's going to be based off the worth of the assets that Torchlight currently has once they sell it, which they have into the end of the year to do, but we don't know the for sure amount. No one knows at this point because they haven't sold it yet. But there's been a lot of conversation on why the value could be the upwards of $20 and why it could be as low as $1. It seems like you would think there's more evidence on why it could be upwards close to $20, not $20 exactly, but on the way there. For example, in one video we talked about Oasis Petroleum and them selling their assets, which was also in the Permian Basin. We've also talked about the price per barrel, which is upwards of $70 per barrel, which is really important because Torchlight is in the oil and gas industry. So the price per barrel is very important in regards to the worth of the actual company, or in particular the assets. You even have George Palikaris, who's the CEO of Metamaterials, saying that he's really excited about the potential of the dividend itself. So when people hear that, they're going to favor, oh, this could be as high as $15, almost $20 per share. But at the same time, he also said that Metamaterials practically has no idea of the asset value of Torchlight, simply because they're Metamaterials and Torchlight's a totally different company. So I think that, and just the fact that a lot of people may not think that there's enough evidence to support the value of the dividend being so high, is why a lot of people think the value of the dividend is going to be so low. And that's painful for the short-term growth of Metamaterials out the gate, at least, because a lot of people are investing in the Metamaterials after investing into Torchlight, primarily because they're really excited about this preferred stock dividend. And the more you have people believe that the industry is really confused about this dividend, doesn't know what they're talking about, or they believe the dividend is going to be small to practically zero, the more people you're going to have selling out, which could be one reason why the price is going down. But speaking of short term, or specifically short, weird segue, I think that goes more into the second reason why a lot of people feel like this whole situation is a scam, and that's the short squeeze. So we talked about what shorting a stock means a few times already. It's basically when you borrow shares from your broker, you immediately sell those shares. Now when you're shorting, you believe the company's gonna do really bad, which therefore the price of it goes down. So in anticipation of that, you rebuy back in at some later time at a smaller price, but the same amount of shares that you borrowed from your broker. Then you return those shares to your broker and you pocket the rest. So the amount of money you can pocket is based on how low the price gets. Now there's been a lot of situations where that hasn't worked in the favor of the people shorting those stocks. For example, you had GameStop, where the majority, if not all, and maybe then some shares were shorted because a lot of people believed the company wasn't doing well, which in this climate it kind of wasn't. But then you had a lot of people from the famous Reddit subgroup Wall Street Bets buy back in, and the price automatically goes up. But the short squeeze play comes in because whenever you're shorting a stock, the only way you can close out your position is buying back in. And if the price of the company continues to go up, then the amount of money you're losing as someone that shorted the company also goes up. And the only way you can stop the bleeding is by buying back in. But when you buy back in, the price keeps going up, and the substantial exponential increase just keeps going, and that's where you have the short squeeze. But with this situation, it's a lot different. We're all anticipating the short squeeze to happen. We were all anticipating the short squeeze to happen weeks ago, shortly after the merger, shortly after the announcement of the dividend, or after the record date. And because of all that, a lot of people are getting really hesitant on if it will ever happen, because we all expect a short squeeze to happen in a very quick period of time. We're expecting this company to go from $10 a share, which was its high after it announced the finalization of the merger, to $50 to $100 a share, which would be amazing, don't get me wrong. But the fact that it hasn't happened yet has caused the price to go down. And there's some other parameters that kind of go along with it. And that's why I'm going to introduce a new term, at least a new term to me, known as the CUSIP. Now the CUSIP is basically a set of numerics that defines a certain security such as a stock. And it basically defines that security in regards to the financial transactions that happen with that stock, for this example, including a buy or a sell or some type of option or something like that. Now, whenever a company changes, in the example of doing a reverse merger, then the CUSIP number will change as well, because the buys and sells and the options trade will be under technically a brand new company. Now, that doesn't seem important right now until you think about what those people that are holding stocks, whether through a buy or an option, have to do once the CUSIP number changes, or once the actual company undergoes a reverse merger or changes in whatever way. And that's where we talk about another rule called the T+21 settlement. Now, I'm sure a lot of us have heard of the T+3 or the T+2 settlement plan, which is basically meaning whenever you undergo a transaction, which is what the T stands for, then you have at this point 2 days until the transaction fully goes through. So for example, when you buy a stock through Robinhood, for example, like Apple, normally on Robinhood, whenever you confirm the purchase, as long as you have the cash, it appears on your actual brokerage app on your list of stocks in your portfolio immediately. But that doesn't mean that the transaction actually fully went through. Keep in mind, Robinhood is basically the interface of the actual financial institution known as Citadel. Citadel is the one that's handling the money, because while you're buying a company, someone else is selling the company for the same price. So that process is gonna take some time. So that's why they say that whenever you buy a stock, that it takes 2 days for it to actually fully verify. That also comes into play with this preferred stock dividend, because you had to have owned shares of Torchlight a day prior to the ex-dividend date, which means you would have owned it for 2 days after the transaction, which is right before the record date. So that makes sense for that situation. But when you think about short squeezes and how long institutions have to end their transactions by buying back in and returning those shares to their broker, then that's where we implement the T+21 rule. That means from a specific period of time, they have 21 days to actually take in their profits or take in their losses, depending on where the share is. And if that doesn't happen, then you'll have something called an FTD, or a failure to deliver. And it seems like when a failure to deliver actually comes into play, then the T+21 situation starts over again, and they have another 21 days to verify a transaction. Now, I know what a lot of you guys are thinking. Does it actually have an impact on the hedge funds in a negative way? I would think so, but I personally don't know. I couldn't gather that information. So it basically seems like that 21-day cycle just seems to reset. And there's been a lot of argument if the 21 days starts from the record date, which was June 24th, or when the merger actually finalized or intentionally finalized on June 30th. But on top of that, I think the one common denominator when it comes to the dividend and the short squeeze itself may be a little unintentional, but it goes back to the CEO of Metamaterials, who is George Palikaris. It's the same person that has been hyping the dividend and what its potential could be, while at the same time acknowledging that since Metamaterial is a different entity and isn't focused on oil and gas, they really don't know what the worth of Torchlight and their assets are, which is understandable. But at the same time, hype was built. Hype was also built with the short squeeze, which is technically possible, because if you go on websites like fintel.io, you can see that the short interest percentage for Torchlight, or now Metamaterials, is fairly high, which shows that a lot of people are in disbelief of what the company can do, which could potentially cause a short squeeze. The issue, in my personal opinion at least, is because of all the hype, we're all expecting this short squeeze to happen really soon. And don't get me wrong, guys. First off, this is just my personal opinion. Second, I really do hope that this short squeeze happens immediately, because the potential of what the price could go up to be is practically endless. But I'm a long-term investor of Metamaterials. The dividend part of it and the short squeeze aspect of it is a really cool thing. Like I said, do not get me wrong, but that's all kind of icing on the cake for me, because I'm looking at this company for 3 to 5 to 10 years to come. And I'm considering where I'm buying into it right now to be the lowest of the low in comparison to what I believe it could be in the future. So when people tell me that it's a scam, or when I go on other YouTubers' content and people are commenting that this is a scam and Torchlight played us and stuff like that, this is what I would consider to be a scam. So Metamaterials has a product that can manipulate light and other types of energy, and it's called nanoweb. And they use that nanoweb on different applications, such as automobiles with defogging and de-icing. Same thing with aerospace technology. They use it on glasses. They use it on GlucoWise. Speaking of which, they announced that I believe their 27-month project that was sponsored by the United Kingdom was finally finished. So now they can start getting the patents for it and start actually trying to sell them. So that aspect's really cool. Them going into the medical industry, they seem like they have a really bright future. If we found out all that was a lie, that is when I would consider it a scam. If we found out that all the money that we're putting into the company is actually going to this George Palikaris guy and he's just going out and having the time of his life that has nothing to do with Metamaterials, that's when I would consider it a scam. But that's just coming from someone that is a long-term investor. And again, don't get me wrong one more time, I am paying attention to this whole short squeeze situation and what the potential dividend could be because it's exciting, and that's still something that a lot of us are paying more attention to than the long-term value of Metamaterials, which is not everyone's fault fully. Somebody had to hype this up, and that's other people that are really focused on it, people that are negative about it, even the CEO himself who was talking a lot about it. And I get why you would talk a lot about it. You want people to invest into your company because you hopefully potentially see a lot of potential with your company. You just need some capital to keep it built. That's just my personal opinion, but I feel like it's easier to get through this if you're a long-term investor. But again, that's just me. But let me know what you guys think in the comment below. What do you guys feel about the short squeeze situation? What do you guys feel about the dividend situation? Do you actually feel like this whole situation with Torchlight or Metamaterials is a scam? Please tell me why, because maybe I can make a follow-up video responding to a lot of you guys' comments, because I can't say that I know everything because I don't. I'm learning from you guys, I'm learning from the research I'm doing, but let me know if you're also a long-term believer and how this whole situation has been going in your perspective. Hopefully you guys are learning a bit and enjoying this video. Speaking of videos, hopefully you guys watch some of these other contents, which I hope and help you guys on your investing journey as I have in mine. I appreciate you guys watching, and until next time, take care.